Coach, just those moments there with a former colleague and introducing your son, I'm sure they knew Nate when he was little. What is that like to kind of reunite that way?
Well, I have a bunch of guys out there that have worked for us that are doing very well in the head coaching assignment. And Gary, I love Gary. Gary's a guy that I only knew briefly when we hired him. And by the time midseason rolled around, he was one of my top guys, a guy that I would close the door and go lean on him quite frequently. And obviously one of the best in the business at what he does.
Over here on the left.
Yes, Urban, you've talked repeatedly about your defensive line depth and the issues there, and this is an important game for that. How comfortable are you with your rotation at that position right now?
We're still not where we need to be. You know, we've put a lot of pressure on them, and Coach Johnson's put a lot of pressure to keep developing that depth, but we're not where we need to be, and we will rotate some guys in there. Actually even took Chase Ferris for a couple snaps in certain situations. You might see him line up a few snaps on defense as well, just because he's a big dude that has some quick twitch to him. So that's not our strength right now, and it should be because we have bodies there. That bodies have to get better.
Over here on the right.
Urban, you guys had a really emotional week last week into this week. How has the team been progressing from Monday to now, from what you've seen through practice? Yeah, it was rough. Sunday was I had to break the news to them. Then Monday, obviously, was their day off. And then Tuesday was, Tuesdays are very hard practices. And even this time of year, you try to back off a little bit with the style of offense we're facing. There's no chance we could back off. So it was a physical practice on Wednesday. You saw, the team went to the Costa's funeral, and very emotional for a lot of guys involved that knew him. And then ever since that moment, though, there's been high energy. Obviously when the buses roll into this fantastic facility, a lot of energy with our team right now, and very positive.
Back here on the left.
Urban, how much more confident do you feel in Cardale seizing the moment than maybe you felt 4 or 5 days ago? What have you learned about Cardale and the way he's embraced this challenge?
Oh, he's prepared very well. He's practiced Tuesdays. Tuesday's a rugged day for anyone in practice, but I saw the improvement we needed to see on Wednesday, and I've made it at least a couple hundred times since the beginning of the week that quarterback is a product of those around him. He still has to obviously execute and do his things, but the guys had a very good practice around him as well, starting with the offensive line. So I'm very confident in Cardale.
Stay right here.
Urban, in your experience, how much can a great running back maybe control a game? And is there any game from your past coaching where you faced a great back that really pops out that might be a comparison for Melvin Gordon?
We faced several this year. This is the deepest, in my coaching career, the deepest league as far as NFL running backs that I can ever remember. And we faced them. We didn't exactly, I would like to say we somewhat contained them, other than a couple big hits. The Indiana player, I think he was a 2,000-yard rusher too. Great player, great speed. Minnesota's running back was fantastic. So obviously we have not seen them live. I've seen them on videotape now, and this is probably the best of the bunch. And to answer your question, I have seen great. When we faced Alabama a couple of times, I think it was Mark Ingram was a Heisman Trophy winner. He controlled that game, so that's a dilemma. We had Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde controlled many games for us in the last 2 years. That's the one. That obviously that and the quarterback. Those two positions are the positions that can control the game.
Stay right down here.
Urban, the senior class here, their accomplishments pretty well noted, but as several guys have said over the last several weeks that they haven't won a championship.
Yeah.
How much of a defining moment is it for these guys tomorrow night, and is that a point that you'll have to drive home with them or no?
Oh, the most important thing on Friday now is rest and hydration and nutrition and get a good night's sleep. So we won't hammer them tonight. I want them to relax and go to bed. Tomorrow we'll hit that, and that's it. The minute you make a decision, the way I was raised and from my first time I walked into Ohio State when I was 21 years old, that when you decide to play athletics, and football in particular, you're measured by championships, and I agree with that. It's not how many yards you rush for, how many. interceptions you have, how many championships are you part of? And that's why I frequently discuss Michael Jordan in our team, because of the way he practices and the way he's a champion. And we talk about champions quite often because, as Bill Parcells said in the champion video we've watched several times, it changes who you are. And forever it ties a team together for the rest of their lives, a championship.
Here on the aisle.
Hi, Coach. Wonder if you could discuss a little bit of the importance. You got JT and Braxton are both here on the trip. How are they going to be able to help Cardale get prepared for the big game?
Very different personalities, very important for our progress, and very important for Cardale to have them there. Very close unit room. Tom Herman obviously leads that unit. Very close group. I was watching them today. They all have great respect for each other. You know, Braxton's a different personality than JT, but they're all different than Cardale. So very close group, and there's no question they were going to be here.
Back down here in front.
Yeah, Urban, can I ask one quick question, digress a second, about JT? Obviously, you've made a case for him to go to New York next week to be in that Heisman final look, whatever. What is the one play, the one game, the one thing that you thought set him apart and made him special in that regard this year?
Well, I get asked questions, Tim, and when I say, well, I made a case, no, JT made a case. Statistically, he is a Heisman candidate, and you just look at the history of the game, and Jerry, our SID, has provided me with that information because I asked for it. You know, when I get asked questions, I don't want to just babble. I want to give statistical facts. I don't have them with me right now, but statistically, he's right there, you know, and he should be. The one moment, the one that I'll never forget, and it wasn't maybe the most glamorous one, was the first overtime at Penn State, when he took the team on his shoulders, and we didn't play particularly well in that game, but he took the game over in overtime and won it. Obviously, the statistical moment was the Michigan State complete game he played, and then maybe the third down, if you say what's a moment or two, the third down and 23 when he dropped the dime right on Devin Smith, and that was very accurate passer, and statistically, he is a Heisman candidate.
Out here to the right.
When it comes to Wisconsin, a lot of the talk centers around Melvin Gordon, but what do you see out of their defense that really helps them?
Well, Gary's a defensive-minded coach, and him and his staff have done a phenomenal job. You know, and we played them last year. We scored early on some passing plays, and then it was very hard to run the ball against them. They had an incredible, but then I started looking at their front as all seniors, and you know, anytime you can say goodbye to a bunch of great players you might have to play, goodbye. And then here we go. The front seven's basically changed, and they're statistically better than they were last year. That's a credit, first of all, to development, which Wisconsin's always done a phenomenal job with developing players, but their coaching staff and obviously their players. So very rugged defense, very multiple. They blitz a lot. You can tell they're very intelligent and well coached because they do a lot of stuff, and if you do a lot of stuff and not make mistakes, you're intelligent and well coached.
Very back here on the left.
Coach, there's a lot of games that are going to influence the Final Four in the college football playoff. Do you make any attempt to try to shield your guys from paying attention to the other games and just totally focus on your game? Is that an issue at all that you have to address with the players?
You know, I have not even thought about that yet. I will. This is usually the night that I go back and I'll sit with our strength coach and we sit and measure our team, how we are tonight. You know, I kind of watch our players tonight because we don't ask a lot of them other than, you know, it's a fellowship. We call it Best Fridays in football. There's a movie. There's college football. There's, you know, just time to play cards and relax. And I'll watch that. But if we need to be, I don't see us. You know, they're all smart guys. They understand what's at stake. And, you know, during the season, I always encourage them to watch football. But that's a great question that we'll have a conversation with my strength coach tonight.
Here on the aisle.
Hi, Urban. So much of your off season, a lot of the kids have talked about looking back to what happened in this building a year ago as the motivation, the fuel to drive them through the season. I'm just curious what you think struck them today as they walk back in this building knowing that the moment has arrived for them, and yourself, your memories of a year ago and how it's driven you and your staff to arrive back here.
Yeah, that was a tough day, walking off that field. Obviously played a very good team, came up short in a great game. We're down 17 points, come back and take a lead, and back and forth, came down to a few critical plays. I haven't spent a whole lot of time, but for me to say that I didn't think about that moment when I walked in that place, it did, and then I moved on quickly, and I hope they did too. We haven't had a lot of chat time tonight. I'll visit with them when I get back. They're at the hotel now. But I'm sure that's everybody that was in that arena and played, certainly played. Maybe the guys that didn't play, it doesn't impact you quite the same. But the older players that played, that's one that you'll never forget. And it's an opportunity to move forward and get us a championship.
Way over here on the left.
Urban, you have a lot of guys who were here last year. Do you notice a difference in some of those veteran leaders, maybe that they're more calm and used to this setting now that they've been here before?
Probably I didn't really notice. You know, I thought last year we had some very good veterans, and this is a smart group of kids, a very invested group of players. I didn't see it does take your breath away when you turn the corner, walk in that beautiful facility. It takes your breath away, and then we get to work. So to answer your question, I didn't notice that.
Back here on the right.
Hey, Urban, over here. Are JT and Braxton, are they able to play a role Saturday night in helping Cardale, like during the game?
Oh, sure. Obviously they're both injured, so you got to keep them away from the fray. But I'm not sure exactly how Tom's going to do that. I think we did have a quick conversation. I'm not sure what we decided on JT, if he's going to be down or up. Obviously, you got to stay out of the way, stay out of harm's way. And Braxton's doing very well, so they will have a role, but it's not going to be anything more than supporting their quarterback and their teammate.
Back here on the left.
Urban, the last 2 weeks against Indiana and Michigan, you put those teams away in the fourth quarter. And both games, the offense started fast. You scored right away. But those were tight games in the second quarter into the third quarter. The offense in general during that stretch, how have you felt about how things have been executed? I mean, now you have a new quarterback, but just even before JT got hurt, how have you felt about the offense in those stretches?
Oh, like probably anybody, the expectation level is very high. You say you score, why don't score every snap? Score every time you go. We're playing, our rivals. They're top 10 in the country in defense because they have great players. They're extremely well coached. So I knew, I was angry is not the word, but just working to figure out how we get things going. Indiana, we run into the turnover bug, and we had 3 turnovers, so we kind of let everything settle down and then went back, be more aggressive. So I don't think coaches look at it the same way. Like you said, what was the problem? You didn't score on 4 drives. Sometimes that happens. You have to figure out why. You have to, because they're on scholarship too and doing a very good job defending. You got to figure out what they're doing differently and come up with some good plays and put the ball in the hands of the guys who can make things happen. That's the biggest thing that I try to do. I have a job, and that's to make sure the playmakers are touching the ball, and I work that very hard. That's what I do during a game.
Here on the right.
Urban, you guys had, I think, 11 days to get JT ready for the opener, something like that. You had 7 here to get Cardale ready for this game. You were pretty successful getting JT ready for the opener. Did you go back to that at all to get Cardale? Obviously, very different games, but to get him ready for this one, did you follow some of the same processes?
You probably have to ask Tom eventually what actually goes on in his meeting room, but a much different scenario. It wasn't just JT now. That group, that was a terrible offense that took the field against Navy. Terrible, not talent-wise, not try hard, but execution. It was because it was the first time that group played together, and you saw methodical growth, most improved group of players I've ever been around. So it's just a much different, but then again, this outfit we're playing here is not, all due respect, this is the #1 defense in the country. So just much different approach. I mean, we're diving into it. In August, we didn't dive into it. We slowly, if you look at that game plan against, we had to do to win that game, somehow win that game.
Stay here on the right.
Urban, you talked about how Cardale has a strong arm. Where is he in his development in terms of the other aspects of being a good passer? Touch.
Oh, very good touch. Passer, he's a very good passer. A lot of quarterback play is so much more the intangible, the leadership, getting in the right play, understanding where the weakness of a defense is, rotation of coverages and all that. That's where he was a little bit behind JT. The good thing is I feel like I don't want to put him on the same level yet because we'll have to see tomorrow, but I feel like he's much more prepared in that area. Not so much just throwing the ball, but so much of quarterback play is not throwing the ball. It's where are you throwing it, why are you throwing it there, and the protection issues and all that. Just the complete saturation that a quarterback must have to run an offense. And the throwing the ball part is probably 10%. That's, most quarterback. You're not a quarterback at this level. You can't throw the ball. It's getting to the point where the ball goes and all the complications that you have to do before. The protection, and that's the main. Most quarterbacks you see struggle, it's not because they can't throw. It's because of the understanding of where you're going with the ball and how to make sure you're protected.
Back here on the left.
Urban, we keep asking you about Cardell and where he plays into this. I'm wondering though, is that concern number one for you, or do you have 3 other concerns that are more pressing than that?
Yeah, number one is the tackling this ball carrier. That's our number one concern, is getting this guy in the ground. And then number 2 is making sure that we are protecting our quarterback, because they blitz a lot. And a very complicated defense, just, for example, the other great defense we faced this year was Michigan State. Not overly complicated, very well coached, tough, rugged, great players. It's a much different dilemma that you're dealing with when you face Wisconsin's defense. They're all over the place, and the offense line's got to be right. And then all of a sudden you walk into this facility, and it's a very loud. We thought we could probably handle the noise last year and not go on silent, but we were wrong. So we're prepared this year a little bit better.
Way over here on the left.
Urban, in order to accomplish your ultimate goal of winning a Big Ten championship here, you have to go through a friend, Gary Anderson, to do so. Can you talk about that?
Go through Gary? I'm sorry, ask that again.
In order to win this game, to accomplish your goal of winning the Big Ten championship, you have to beat a friend of yours. Can you talk about that?
Oh, sure. It's that's page 2, page 3, or page 4. That's certainly not page 1. And Gary and I are great friends. We'll ever be great friends. Great respect for each other. Good family people, and our families get along, and that will never change. But for 60 minutes tomorrow, we're going to be competitors.
Have time for a few more right here on the aisle.
Coach, this morning you said that this was as close a team as you've ever had. You compared it to a couple of your Florida teams. Could you kind of talk about that as far as how that's come into play this week and what you've seen?
Well, college football, and I tell our staff this all the time, it's one of the most complicated organizations that's out there. Where our clientele, or our employees, not employees, but our people that we have to deal with every day are 18 to 21 years old. And for those parents out there that understand the lives of 18, especially males on a college campus, it's not easy. And motivation every day in a tough, violent sport that you have to really be selfless to be good. And there's I keep going, and now that I'm a little older and I've been around some really good teams, the closeness and the locker room, how they care for each other, the ability to fight through adversity, it's easy to measure. I hear people say we have an extremely close team, but then they play awful. I've had some teams that weren't that close, and we didn't play very well. I've had other teams that 2012, our first year, I underestimated because I didn't know the players. But by week 8, that was also an extremely close team, because a lot of things happen during the course of a game. A lot of things happen during the course of a week that only people inside that facility know what's going on. And football is the one sport that exposes you quicker than any sport there is. If you're a selfish player, you get exposed. If you are not working, you get exposed. And that's my comment about this team, because this team's been through a lot, and they keep grinding and they keep winning.
Additional questions? Oh, over here.
Coach, you talked about the improvement that your offense has made from the start of the season to now. What in your opinion, is the trajectory of your defense from the start of the season to now?
Much improved. Not where we need to be. I think we had a chance to finish off a couple people. I was asked a question earlier. You give up a couple big hits, and I'm real disappointed. But I liked. Certainly, we're young. We only lose a couple of seniors on that side of the ball. We've recruited fairly well, and we continue to recruit well. So we have a vision of Ohio State being a top 10 defense. We're not there. We're close. You know, at times I think we're like 13th or 15th. We're not there, but this will be a great measuring stick for us tomorrow, and we got a lot of work to do. I like our staff. I think our staff, very cohesive staff, and the future is very bright.
Down here on the left.
Urban, you've been in a lot of games like this by this point in your career. How will you be tonight when you're going to bed? Are you going to be right to sleep, no problem, or what are you like the night before a game like this?
Nut job, or what, I'm trying to think of the appropriate term. No, I don't sleep very well, and I just keep walking around staring into the players' eyes, and even when they think I'm not watching them, I'm watching them, because I just want to make sure we're doing the best we can. I'm insane about that, making sure when the foot hits the ball tomorrow at 8 o'clock, our guys are well prepared, well hydrated, and properly rested. So I actually, at this point in my career, I enjoy it, but it's not easy.